Okay.
You're on. You're live.
All right. Everybody hear me okay? So, not really? How about like this? How you do like this? I'll try to talk louder, maybe.
Brooke, turn your volume up on that.
Here,
This is up.
I got this. Try that now, Brooke. See what that's like.
Is this better? Yeah. That's pretty loud, but
Too loud?
it's
Good.
okay. We'll go with that. Okay, so this talk is about how to have a good dying experience, how to have a good death. I'm Brooke. So how we live is how we will die. This idea is really important, I think. We have kind of limited exposure to death in our culture with mostly if family members have passed or through social media, and we get ideas. But what makes a good death is something that's left up to our imaginations, but we all have ideas about it. And I'd like to start by just having some moments of silence while we imagine what a good dying experience might be, and also maybe what a not good dying experience might be made of, what components that would be, and then we'll share some of that as a beginning place. And so I'm going to just have everybody close their eyes and take a breath, and then imagine that, and I'll count maybe to 30 seconds or so, and then we'll share some. Okay, let's hear some thoughts. Anybody who wants to share what they think that might be.
My good death recently came to me as around with my pets on the bed.
Surrounded by your pets on the bed.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's great.
To me, I think a bad death is an ICU death.
I agree.
Where you're on a ventilator and people are torturing you.
Yes.
And you're unable to do that.
Yes. So that's, and what I'm going to crystallize is that is feeling alone. You're isolated. You're surrounded by technology, but you're not in a heart space. Okay. Yeah.
To follow up on that, I mean, in bed at home with your family is the best place, and my dog. But in my case, it'll be someone to take care of. You got someone to take care of the dog, later. The worst would be, it's okay if you die by yourself and you go, you're gone, that's okay. But if you, die there by yourself, that's bad. That's something I wouldn't want,
Alone.
Yeah.
By yourself.
Yeah.
Slowly
suffering alone.
And no one to take care of your dog. So
The dog is not going to be with me at this time.
okay.
The dog,
I mean, who takes care of what's left is a big part of what a good dying experience is, knowing that that's going to be okay. Okay. Hey. Okay, I'm going to go here first. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and maybe this also separates the thought of the actual dying, the actual moment of threshold crossing. A lot of people do seem to choose to be alone or with not a loved one. And yet in all the leading up to dying, which might be weeks, months, or, we don't want to be alone. That's an interesting point. There was another hand. Yeah.
For me, the first thought that came up for like the bad death that I wouldn't want was one of resistance or fighting.
Yeah.
So that's what came up for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a resistance to what's happening. Yeah. Totally. That's part of my talk. Okay.
I love that Five Wishes document that's out there, multi-page book. I've been working on it with somebody I know, and I would want to be with somebody holding my hand who's not afraid to be there.
Yeah.
I would not want to be there.
Yeah. Okay. That's so beautiful. Okay. Yeah.
What I'd say was just for it not to be a burden on anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Just for it to be me and over.
Uh-huh.
Whether I'm with somebody, I would like somebody to be there, but just not to be where people feel forced to come visit and sit and all, just clean as it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe quick. A lot of times that's a good version.
One thing for me is that I would not want to be resuscitated. If my heart stops and my breathing stops, I only want to die once.
Yeah.
Just to let nature do what.
Cool. Okay. This is great.
Brooke,
Yes.
can you talk about why some people choose to be alone and some don't?
If I knew that, that would be great. But maybe some of that will be intuitive as we talk about what's going on around dying. But certainly, I've witnessed this as I've been in family medicine for 30 years, and the last 15 of those years were in hospice. So I've gotten a lot of experience being with people dying and talking about dying in the months and anticipating it, weeks. And then also those conversations, lots of conversations about with the bereaved or the caregivers around dying, and then also the caregivers after the person has passed and what they're left with. And I think all of that is informing what I'm thinking about when I think about a good dying experience. Okay, did I miss anybody who wanted to share?
I think in answer to what you were asking, some people can't die when their loved ones are present and wanting them to live. So it's very hard to let them go.
Yeah.
There's people present who haven't let go.
Yeah, there's a tethering, and it has to do with maybe emotional, holding on, for sure. Yes.
And, like a nice quilt and people having a cup of tea.
Comfortable.
Deeply peaceful.
Yeah.
And transition to the other side.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a fear of dying inside. I want to be outside when I go.
Okay. Outside in nature. Yeah. Natural. Okay. So I'm going to talk about dying. I divide dying into these categories, the components of what a dying is. And those categories are the physical stuff. Physical stuff being the setting we're in, the home, or in an assisted living or some other institution. And then caregivers having enough support and financial support makes a huge difference in the setting and the support and the people who are there to take care of us. The estate things are kind of part of the physical thing, like having that organized, and then the having hospice involved is helpful with a lot of the medical equipment and the medicines, having the medicines available, all of those things. Okay, and that's not what I'm really going to focus on today. I think those are really important, and it's good to plan ahead. But those are a little more straightforward, and thinking about it in advance and planning and communicating that is really critical to the people around you, so that they know if one day you can't talk or you become demented, those things get to be taken care of. So that's the physical. Then there's the emotional, the relational stuff. And that's what I'm really going to talk about today, because I think that really paints, has the biggest effect on a lot of these things that we're talking about. Whether we feel alone. We may be with other people, but we might feel completely alone if we aren't able to communicate our feelings or be vulnerable. And I think this is critical to a good dying experience, and it's something that we don't show up at dying with knowing how to do necessarily. It's something that you have to prepare. You have to live your life with this kind of idea in the background, and then it really helps inform your whole life, actually. So there's the emotional, relational part, and then there's this other part that we'll talk about a little bit at the end, that's legacy. What are you leaving behind, and what are you leaving behind in the hearts and relationships of who's left? So this emotional component, the idea of not being alone and being able to process the feelings that are coming up, because with dying there's this huge unraveling of life that is filled with emotions all the way along. Lots of loss and grief, some celebration, some, the memories that we're sharing with people. But a lot of it is difficult emotions and feelings. And there's, a tendency, the first hardest thing for a lot of people is to know what they're feeling. It might come out really sideways sometimes, but some of us are good at knowing what we're feeling, and some of us are not as good. I'm one of those people. I'm working on that. But you need to, become more present with your feelings and learn how to identify them and, figure out what's happening in your body. You might have clues in your body, like stomach tightness or shoulders. You're like, I guess I'm kind of tense right now. Or I'm really angry, or all those things. And beginning with that, you can build on connection with others. It's hard to connect to other people around feelings if you're not sure what they are. So learning about those feelings and identifying them is step number one. And then having the hard feelings around dying can be overwhelming, or it often is overwhelming. In fact, we can pretty much guarantee that all of us will be overwhelmed with some component of it, no matter how good we are at knowing what our feelings are, and even reaching for connection and support in those feelings. Once you are identifying with what you're feeling, you have the option to reach for connection and support. And I have witnessed this as a real stumbling block in a lot of dying that leads to not so good dying experiences. And I'm going to start with an example. A friend of mine this was some years ago, but the wife had metastatic cancer, and it was causing her body to get weaker and weaker and shrivel up. She had 2 young kids and her husband, and she was completely attached to hopefulness, hope that this was all going to just miraculously go away. And she and her husband is like, it's not going away, and you're dying, but she would not talk about that. And so there was a refusal. It was an overwhelm and a refusal to talk about this. And that left her husband and her kids completely separated from her in this experience. So they ended up all being alone, even though they were with each other. And she passed that way, and he, I think, still carries a lot of this burden with him. That was his emotional legacy, and the kids too. And this in my practice in hospice, I see this play out, but in much smaller kind of subtleties. But it still is something I want to draw your attention to, because it's so important to when we have a refusal or a shutting down around what an experience is, that we look at it if we can, or how do we manage it? Now, this can be a little confusing when I'm talking about it, because I'm going to talk about it from the dying person's perspective, but also from the caregiver's perspective, and or the bereaved. I might use that word, but I think the caregiver comes more naturally to me. And when we have these feelings, and we can feel so overwhelmed that we can shut down, and then that creates this tension and distance. I think being able to reach out or share that experience, like that we're having a feeling and it's too much, is something that we're not particularly, not everybody is good at. Some people are good at this. But that allows for connection, okay? And there's these different types of connection that are good to talk about. One is face-to-face connection. So we're having an overwhelming experience, and we can reach for a face-to-face, like, help me with this. I need, this is overwhelming. And but that can be too much for people a lot of the time, and so instead of doing a face-to-face type connection, we might do a side-to-side connection, just be together, and that's a great way to process or allow feelings to be there, which is the biggest challenge. And then we might not have to talk about it. We might just let it be in the background. But when we can talk about it, it really unwinds the energy of it. And not just that, it allows us to get care that we really want when we can bring these feelings forward. And we find a deepening connection in the sacred space of dying, approaching death. And that is so critical. So when we have these emotions, there's an awareness of the emotion, and then there's an important step in the process that helps us not turn away from it, is allowing it to be there, like being aware of it and then actually welcoming it to be present. This is a really hard thing to do when it's uncomfortable, or we're anxious, we're angry. And that's another way that we might need support in allowing it to be there. But when we can allow it to be there and look at it, we can be informed by the story that is in that feeling. There's usually two layers of story. One is the the story of what we see around us, but the other story is the really important one, which is the meaning behind how we interpret this feeling, how it lands in us. Are we feeling persecuted, or are we feeling, when we have this pain, like someone's attacking us, or somebody should be doing something better, or I don't deserve this. All these other myths and meanings start playing out in our minds, and that affects all of what we project around us onto our caregivers. So in this case that I described, I don't know what she was thinking, but I know it was overwhelming. She couldn't handle that feeling. And I just want to say that I have complete compassion for that we all, will have these things that we can't deal with that are overwhelming. But it's nice, the thought that we might be able to deal with it if we were in that situation, if we practice a little bit before we get there in our lives, as we live our lives, then that would help us have the option maybe to not turn away and shut down. So these feelings can block us, and I think I have felt like I could be that person. I mean, we don't know if we could be the person who's going to shut down because we haven't gotten there yet. Haven't ever had to deal with that level of intensity. But having witnessed it, you can see how it creates tension. Now, there are clues when we are starting to shut down or have emotions kind of squeak out sideways. And this is like when we are turning away from the feelings, we tend to turn towards some kind of distraction. And it might be being really busy, or telling other people what to do, or trying to get control of the situation when we're upset. And I see it as a lot of it plays out in caregivers trying to get the person who's dying to do something so that they feel better as a caregiver. They're upset, they're grieving, and so they want the patient or the person who's dying to eat more, or to walk more, or get out of bed so they don't have to deal with this. And I think that's an important thing to be aware of in ourselves, but that's just one manifestation of trying to deal with feelings that are overwhelming, and we're playing them out on the people around us. Now, I would like to get participation then on ideas or ways that you're aware of that these feelings might play out indirectly. Like when you have a feeling and it starts to manifest in a behavior or something. I wonder how different people might have noticed that.
I noticed as my mom was caring for her dying husband, my stepfather, how particular about food and strict protocols, and they were very different ideas. He felt very isolated with having a strict protocol because he couldn't enjoy regular meals with his family and grandchildren.
Yeah.
And she was like absolutely obsessed with like any gluten or anything off the regimen was going to kill him, and it provided a huge source of tension in the last month.
Yes, exactly. So control, we start to reach for control where we can get it because we have no control over the things that are really happening, messing us up. Yeah. Okay. Any other ideas?
Somatic complaint.
Physical complaints, like it might manifest in a person having pains or things instead of dealing with the emotion around them. Yeah. Stomach is a big one. I think of having an agenda. In fact, I was thinking about this talk and having an agenda for a good dying experience, that can be separating. You can go in there and be like, oh, we're all going to communicate and share our feelings, and this is like, whoa, you have to approach all of this with this kind of introduction of the idea, a hopefulness, and also an allowance for wherever everybody is, especially the dying person. They're kind of the lead energy that you're supporting. So what they're up for is really important. They may not be into talking about feelings, and it might be just side by side or just presencing with them. Maybe therapeutic touch or music or singing or all the nice things that can be part of that being together. So the agenda can be separating, and it can become almost like we all. As I say this, I'm thinking that we kind of almost, when we get uncomfortable sometimes, if we're not actually paying attention to what's happening inside us, then everything around us turns into pawns on our little chessboard to help us feel better. And we try to change them all so that things get better, we get relief. Ultimately, none of that works very well. It creates a lot of tension. So these the feelings are huge. The refusal is big, and it creates separation. And the way through this is in connection and being together, or opening to it. We might tell ourselves. There's also these internal messages we project, like, this isn't the right time. I kind of want to share this feeling, but it's going to be a burden. And this might be the dying person saying this to themselves. I don't want to burden the people around me with stuff, all my stuff. And this is maybe worth asking and not just assuming. And the same with the people who are caregivers. They may not want to burden the dying person. And there's also always, it seems like in families, those people who want to share and those people who don't want to share about stuff, and you have to kind of work it out. But I think as a dying person, if you're the dying person, this is something you're open to, you can create this welcoming atmosphere when you start to share what's going on inside, that is this kind of vulnerable and authentic atmosphere that we're all looking for as we describe a good dying experience. And that's a thought to put in your head, that you can help create this. And even as a support person, you can offer that. Hey, we could talk about this if anybody's up for it. You might say something like that to help create this environment. Now there's this other component that I want to address. What I've spent most of the time on is the emotions of dying as the critical piece. And I think as a dying person, you have some agency in that, and what you bring to it. Of course, it's hard though. As you go through dying, you're getting weaker and less able to do some of this sharing, and your brain might not be functioning quite as well. And so, try not to procrastinate with this kind of conversation. Try to do it before the last couple of days. It gets harder. And maybe setting the tone early on can help that flow happen. But there's another piece of this, which is the emotional legacy that the dying person can speak to, which I think can make a huge difference in in what people carry with them, carry away. Just being open and talking in that story I described, that would have had a huge impact on the legacy. But also, there's these common threads that I talk to people about. after someone passes, or sometimes in the middle of it. And that is, they're afraid that they're not going to be holding someone's hand when they pass. Like, the caregivers are afraid that they're going to, the person who's dying is going to feel really alone if they're not there holding their hand. And this becomes a logistical challenge because you can't just be there all the time. You got to go to the bathroom and the kitchen and the store and all this stuff. And so if a person who's dying could say to their caregivers, I feel you with me even if I pass when you're not here. And often you do pass when they're not right there. If you could say that, if you feel authentic about it, that would relieve a lot of tension and burden in the environment around you, in caregivers. That's one. Another one is about giving too much pain medicine. In hospice, we are using medicine for pain to make people comfortable and they get sleepy, but it's not a lethal dose. But you still could die soon after getting it, and the caregivers are always in a lot of tension around that they're causing the person to die, and they often actually are hesitant to give it, and that becomes a real challenge. I have a patient right now who has metastatic cancer, and his daughter won't give him the pain medicine, and he's in a lot of pain, and we can try to convince her, but some people just hold on to this thought. If the person who's dying can speak to that in the caregivers, I think it could be a relief to say something, if you feel authentic, like, this medicine really helps me, and if I pass, it's not you. You didn't do anything to me. It's just my time. I hate to put the burden on the person who's dying, but it's a voice that can really directly affect all this kind of mental baggage that the caregivers get tied up with. And then the third one is, I didn't do enough. I should have done, if they had only done this, if I'd only taken them to the ER, if I'd only been there when they didn't fall down and break their hip, or, all these if I didn't do's. And people talk about this forever. I get stopped in the grocery store to go process this stuff with people who've lost somebody. And I think if the person who's dying might say, if they feel authentic about this, hey, I feel at peace with where I am, and I don't think there's anything that you should have done, that you could have done differently to change this whole situation. And I'm okay with this. I think that really eases burden that I have witnessed a lot of. So that's the biggest part of this legacy thing that I think we can address. Now, I'm interested if anybody else has thoughts that come up about easing this legacy, or things that you notice that people carry with them. Go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking about family dynamics, and the example you gave about resisting, the daughter resisting, I'm thinking about siblings saying, well, you always do that. Or, they project their own upsetness on the person. And what would help with that? Like, would a death doula be good to have it, but that person there to intervene?
Okay, you're describing a scenario where there's a sibling, like two siblings taking care of somebody who's dying.
Well, like me with my siblings.
Oh, you and your siblings.
Yeah.
But
I'm giving away what my family dynamics are like.
and one of the siblings is like saying, I want what? I didn't quite grasp the.
Oh, it's like they project on you what they think you should want as the dying person.
Oh yeah, so we come with this agenda about how this person should be dying and what they're going to want, and without actually asking them or really investigating that.
Or they project, you always do it that way, old stories.
Yeah, all the old patterns.
Old habits.
They all come up. And they're all like, it's all like this elephants and furniture in the room that is clogging up the environment. And the more we can move that out of there and address it, the more freedom there is. But it's hard stuff, and it won't move. There's a lot of it that is just stuck.
So is a doula being present or a trusted mediator, for example? Is that
Wonderful. That's a great thing to have as a kind of a safety valve guide, maybe, and giving ideas. And then there's therapists, and that's beautiful if people are open to that. I think that's a great. This is dying is such a kind of crucible for intensity that we can really grow from this if we look at it that way. But it's really good not to have that as an agenda for the dying person, because they might just be like, I just want to ease up out of here. And in my life, my mom, I went with a lot of tension around her. She had dementia. But even before that, there was things that I wish I could have brought up that I couldn't. It wasn't available to me to bring up and process. And so now I have my, instead of a face-to-face relationship or a side-by-side, I have my face-to-spirit connection with her, and I communicate that, and I can process some of the emotions and feelings, and it's a little cleaner because not all the guarding and blockages. Go ahead.
I'm going to talk about our attitude about dying. In some cultures, it's accepted, especially in the East, or part of the cycle of life. People understand life doesn't go on forever. They don't take heroic measures just to keep people alive for longevity's sake. Whereas in our culture, death is bad. I have to prevent this death from happening. I'm going to fight every last minute. And you're a physician. I'm a scientist, so I look at it that way. And your physicians are, that's the thing, I'm going to keep you alive as long as I can. So that attitude pervades our culture. So we don't accept that it's supposed to be something that's supposed to happen.
Totally.
Right? And I think that's very, very damaging to people.
Yeah.
Because quality is so important.
Yeah.
Right? The longevity piece is important too, but the longevity without the quality, a lot of people don't want that. And that's something you should also discuss.
So that's like, there's the emotional refusal of the doctors to allow death. They're like,
They might be sued. They got no choice.
They what?
They might be sued. Unless there's a DNR, they might be sued. Right?
Well, those are conversations, in my practice, it was, you check and you see, and everybody's on board, except there's one relative somewhere far away who is not part of the situation, and they want everything to be better, and they don't know how bad it is.
You can put that into your, was it living will? What do you do?
You can.
Put that in legal terms.
Yeah.
Right?
But then there's, you communicate, and then you coordinate and try to get everybody on board.
This here on page 3.
That it's okay to let go. And, it's always, as you get older, it's easier to let go. Everybody, in later years is like, I'm ready. But when you're younger, it's really hard, you really are not ready. And there's all these tensions get huge. So the point that I wanted to make here mostly is that paying attention to how you deal with your emotions now is going to have this huge impact on your whole dying experience. Okay? And this is going to play out very clearly. And having presence with your feelings and learning about communication will benefit you in your life as well as in your dying experience. Okay, a little tidbit I didn't address yet is how do we deal with wanting to have forgiveness? A lot of people wait until they're dying to try to forgive or be forgiven. And what does that mean? And then there's what repair is. Repair is the next level past forgiveness, where you can just say, I forgive you, but then it doesn't always lead to that really good feeling of repairing of a relationship. And there's a process that you can go through, the repair process. I highly recommend looking at this. It's like 10 steps, and it's really helpful in a relationship. But let's just say it doesn't happen. A lot of it doesn't really happen. And how do we sit with all the unfinished business that is our emotional legacy from dying? I've been asking myself this, and again, trying to work on it while we're alive is good, but a lot of it is really hard to work with. So how to settle with that, and how do we carry it in our lives? How do we hold ourselves in this place of unfinished stuff? And I think the same exercise I was just talking about before, which is where you look at the feelings that you have, like this is hard, and then you maybe reach for support about those feelings. That's helpful. Or have this conversation with Spirit. So that's the crux of what I wanted to talk about today. I'm open to get any inputs everybody has on what else a good dying experience could be. And I want to add one before everybody starts talking and telling me, and that is I loved going to a living memorial recently, which was, instead of having everybody come to your funeral, have them come before you die and have a party. And you got to do this before your last 3 days of life. You really got to plan ahead for that. If you're on the slow kind of death, which is what we've been really talking about, you can kind of try to time that when you have energy. Okay, yes.